Whoa, that's the last time I'm putting Vegemite on my ice cream. Where am I? Alright, let's think. I feel a bit lightheaded. There's a Space Jam 2 controller in my hand, and I've missed the last 2 months of my life. So I just travelled through time. So, hey, I'm back, and all of this time travel has really made me feel like playing through the old Ratchet and Clank Future games. Must be a side effect, I guess. Also, I call these ones the Ratchet and Clank Future games because that was a tagline in North America, even though we didn't get that tagline over here. But Ratchet and Clank PS3 games don't really suit it, since the future games have been continued on the PS5 now. So, whatever. Now these three here are the ones I grew up with getting Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction for free with a controller. I always looked at this cover and thought the game was just gonna be lame, but after 20 minutes or so, I just fell in love with it. So I guess I better talk about these to hopefully cure my time travel sickness. So back into it with the first Ratchet and Clank game in the new soft reboot of the franchise. The first Ratchet and Clank game I ever played. Starts off with Ratchet messing around with this bike thing, and he explodes. Also, the city's been attacked by a robot fish thing. They find the leader of the fish, and it's Percival.
Emperor Percival Tachyon, Crown Prince of the Cragmites, Conqueror of Space and Time, and, pending the obliteration of a few insubordinate species, ruler of the universe.
Your name's Percival?
Some guy who wants Ratchet dead so he can rule the universe. Just standard stuff, I guess. They escape, pass out on drugs, and Clank has a bad trip where he sees weird aliens kidnapping him. Flying on drugs isn't the greatest idea, so they crash. They met this Australian guy who was goddamn everywhere in this series for some reason. They go to a library, find out about this Lombat's planet, head there, and find the coolest ship in the entire franchise, the Amphibian. The Amphibian. Space controls are pretty lame. You can just kind of fly around in circles and shoot, and that pretty much just beats every single boss by doing that. Nothing like the original trilogy. They learn about this Lombat's secret and go to find a supercomputer that can tell them all about it, running into a bunch of things, including the plumber guy from the original trilogy. They meet up with a couple of robots and Tailwind, which are just a great cast of characters. I just love them so much. You fight pirates for some reason. Clank has more drug trips about some keepers of time, and there's this weird wall rolling minigame thing. Ratchet finds this Lombat's dimension hopping device known as the Dimensionator. Yeah, real creative, guys. Sends Ratchet and Percival into a weird dimension.
You infernal machine!
So Ratchet does what he does best, and murders him. Clank has one more drug trip, but this time Ratchet too gives into the voices, and watches his friend get kidnapped. Sequel bait much? This is a much needed refresh from the original games, I think. Strafing has been refined, guns are bigger and better, destruction in cities is way more spectacular, besides when you just stand there and wait for the bridge to break before leaving. Writing is still top notch, gadgets now auto-equipped when you need them, and you can change Clank so he has his jetpack back. Overall, solid start to a new series. I didn't really find anything overly bad about it, everything was just kind of great all the way through. A lot of people complain about the new strafing mechanics making the game way too easy, but the amount of enemies on screen in this game I could not imagine beating with the old combat system. This one is weird. It's kinda a side game in the main storyline, but isn't referenced at all in the next one. After the longest loading screens I've seen for a game for at least a year, I can finally play this game. It all revolves around finding the Obsidian Eye, but the game has to go for 2 hours, so of course they just added in a bunch of filler to pad out the time. It's all narrated by Rusty Pete, the pirate guy from the last game, and a disembodied head of his captain, who he brutally murdered without remorse because in Ratchet's eyes, it was just another obstacle in the way on his path of destruction, driven by his need for revenge. Anyway, you wake up on the island after a bit of a scuffle, and we have to mend wind turbines. fun. Next we find the obsidian eye. Cool, game over. Oh no, it needs a power source apparently. Okay, let's go get it. Ratchet and Talon get split up.
Place together, okay?
Yeah. I can't make any promises.
I
But Ratchet finds the Vulcan Star, the power source for the obsidian eye. But, oh no, Pete betrayed us and took off with it, awakening the dead in the process. You actually have the choice to go back and save Talon, which I thought it was cool. Doesn't lead to much but a different cutscene, but it helps. Oh, we're just gonna leave without Talon? Can I go back and do something about that? Oh, I can. Oh, okay. You fight through the dead, convince the weird robot head that you're a pirate, kill so many people until these big bug quantum guys that come out of nowhere, and obliterate a ghost with a laser you bought from a creepy Australian drug dealer. A lot of the game just feels like a fetch quest, not really pushing the story forward. Just, oh, you can't do this because you don't have this. The characters don't really go through as much as they could have. There's no really arcs or anything, which could easily have been done in the 2 hours this game took. I actually played through this game back when PSN was hacked and they gave this out for free, but I honestly couldn't remember one thing from it. So from the last game, it kind of starts straight away. Clank wakes up in the clock. Dr. Nefarious doesn't know how to use his inside voice, and so he just takes over the clock, the machine keeping all time in order. Remember when every single game had this tutorial about how to use the camera? And it was like a solid 3 minutes of just looking around.
My store, sir. They belong to Dr. Nefarious.
Wait, do all crates belong to Dr. Nefarious? It's that the reason why they're just everywhere and no reason at all? Meanwhile, Ratchet goes out looking for Clank, of course, encountering tribes and all sorts of weird and wacky stuff along the way. Space fight missions return, and unlike Tools of Destruction, I can actually move. On the level of the original Ratchet and Clank games, since space is used more like a hub world than level in this game, so flat movement is kind of required to find bonuses on planets, which is kind of lame. Also, the way power-ups absorb into your ship always freaks me out. They look exactly like bullets. Okay, fine. Does every game break when I play it, or do other people have the same issues? He meets up with this Lombats guy, and they're all like, "Oi, I know you." Ratchet's like, "Oh, this is awkward, because I have no idea who you are." They both think Dr. Nefarious in control of the clock is probably bad, so they team up to stop him. But first they need to find an obsidian eye to find Clank. Didn't Ratchet just do that in the... A part of me wishes this game just had fast travel, since flying in a straight line towards a planet isn't exactly the funnest thing to do. Simple menu system would have been much more enjoyable, since you can just dive right into the next level, not have to physically move your ship over to the mission, like this is some open world game. Also yes, there is bonus planets, which you have to do in order to get enough zoning to upgrade your ship for certain things. Planets aren't all that exciting and can be easily cheesed. Good speedrun practice, I guess. Throughout the game, you play as Clank, just chilling out, doing puzzles, shooting lasers at the planet, and he just basically does that for the whole game. The puzzles are actually really fun. My only wish is they got a bit harder throughout the game. There's a point once you get your head around doing multiple things with your past selves, most of the puzzles have the same answer. But out of every Clank section in the series, so far this game has the best. Ratchet finds out backstory and how Shadow the Wombats wants to change your past to stop his species from dying or whatever. But a bunch more stuff happens and basically more enemies in the way of Ratchet's thirst for blood and unquenchable need to slaughter any animal he sees until the duo reunite. Cool, I guess. I didn't really need Clank because I had hover boots, but alright. Clank finds out from an old Assassin's Creed dream that he can use the time machine, but only if he treats it like the Sands of Time kind of 6-second rule. I'm not foreshadowing anything. Ratchet is shot, but who cares? Because we just learned about the 6-second rule. So of course Clank just does that to save Ratchet. And then they murder Azimuth, since he wanted to explode the universe to save one species. Which, if they're anything like Azimuth, I'm glad they're gone forever, because this guy is actually useless in this game. Hit him! Get him! He saved the day and fits the clock.
Alistair?
Also, Nefarious, you're probably wondering where he went. He died from bullet poisoning. It's kind of weak ending to the villain since, well, the villain changed way before that fight. As soon as we found out Azimuth wanted to time travel, right after we learnt time travel was bad. So of course he was the villain. I really like the dual storylines in this game, how you learn one plot point from Clank's section and another from Ratchet's, and normally the two are conflicting. The problem is they always just seem to be after one another. You learn, oh, you can go back 6 minutes, and then you see Ratchet die in pretty much the next scene. It doesn't really have that payoff feeling that you would in a normal story. I think if they were told earlier on in the story, it would have had a bigger payoff, because you would have been like, oh yeah, I remember that. But as it is now, it just feels like you are told one part of the story and you already know how it's going to play out with the other side. Another problem, the weapons are pretty much the same from Tools of Destruction, and the levels are way too big. It kind of gets easier when you get the hover boots since you can explore faster, but other than that, I think they're way too big. Oh yeah, there's a fourth one. Technically this isn't a Future game since no region had the Future tagline on it, and it's more of a prequel to Rift Apart than a sequel from Crack in Time, but whatever, I'm reviewing it now. This one is more of a side game building up to the next game in the franchise, similar to what this one did, but man, is that far from the truth if you just think of this game as a side game. Straight away, I was not impressed since the game runs so slow. I'm sure it's not that bad because this game is now the only Ratchet and Clank game that doesn't run at 60 FPS, so it's a bit jarring. I did get used to it after a while though. The game looks incredible for a PS3 game. It actually came out around a week before the PS4. PlayStation seems to have big games for the last year of a system, so it makes a little sense, but seriously, a week before? And this game never got a PS4 port like The Last of Us or anything. Anyway, the game starts off on a prison transport ship. Things go bad, of course, and we get this cool sequence that uses the new gravity mechanic that actually ends up playing a huge role in Rift Apart. So you fight through these goons for hire, make your way to the front of the ship and stop the big bad, and Kronk and Zephyr die in an explosion. Straight off the bat, two major characters in the series just die. Okay, I guess this game's gonna be a bit different to the others. But you gotta move on though, and the duo fly to some planet with a creepy old orphanage and upgrade Clank so he has the ability to cross into a dimension known as the Nether. No, not that Nether, a weird VVVVV, purple clone kind of Nether. These sections are actually really fun. I wouldn't say they're better than Crack in Time's Clank sections, but it's on par. The big bad lady opens the portal to the Nether using a budget dimensionator and ends up turning this game into some creepy horror game. But who cares when you have guns as big as these? Okay, this is maybe much worse than I thought. Ratchet teams up with the bad guys to help correct their mistake. The last level is in Meridian City, which is actually pretty cool. The whole place is overrun by these spooky boys, and you can just unload everything you have. The purple guy is defeated after more Ratchet's bullets, and Clank Gravity's stuff, and the evil twins go to jail. Oh yeah, and there's a teaser for the next game, which wouldn't come out for another 7 years. I honestly think Insomniac had plans to re-release this on PS4, as well as make Rift Apart for the system, but with Sunset Overdrive and having to make that tie-in Ratchet and Clank game for the movie, then having to work on Spider-Man, it kinda got pushed aside. This game didn't sell all that well. Yeah, releasing a brand new console that won't be backwards compatible with the previous will probably do that to a game released a week before. But I was really blown away by this game. I remember playing the first hour and not liking it much, but I'm not sure if it's because I played Rift Apart now, or what, but this is now my second favourite Ratchet and Clank game. Just the weird creepy horror elements, and how there's not one bad weapon. The new mechanics and everything just works. So after playing all the Ratchet and Clank Future games, I would rank them here, 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 and here. The original trilogy being here, here, here. Now, I may seem to be more negative towards these games, but that's far from my opinions on them. I just think people should be negative about games they love, and more positive about games they don't, just to get a new perspective on the series. One thing I will say the future games have over the original trilogy is actual real-world use. Now I know messing with the timeline can lead to massive consequences. I guess not. It is just a game. It's not like you can come out and make a timeline world. Wait a minute. This is way worse than I thought. My copy of Dog's Life doesn't have a case in this timeline.